Is part of a video series I'm doing to help band directors create a digital platform for their marching band. So this is specific to marching bands, but for those of you that are not in the marching band world, hopefully this helps you understand how to set up Mainstage. So I'm going to start off by picking a common option for marching bands, and that is a 2 synth keyboard option. Whether that means you have 2 synth players or that means your synth players navigating between two, we'll find out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click the 2 keyboard pre-setup. As you get here, it's preloaded with some audio. You can listen to it. Okay, and that's both working simultaneously. As you can see, the key on the bottom is the same as the key on the top. So we'll talk about adding in an audio interface and adding in the synth and the MIDI and connecting all your keyboards and all that in a separate video. This video is all about creating everything you need before you get to rehearsal and plug in. Okay, so I'm going to start off by going to what's called Untitled Concert, and we want to save it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this as setup demonstration. You can name it whatever you'd like. Okay, and now that we have this named, I want to explain this panel right here, which we call the patch list real fast. Okay, right here, this is our concert view. Whatever's in the concert view means you can see it throughout the view of the concert. And by what you're seeing, I'm referring to the channel strips over here on your right. The channel strips are kind of like what you have on a mixer, where you have your output with faders you can control. Okay, so it is a channel strip if it has a fader, just for basic clarification understanding. In our concert view, everything in here will show up in any other view below. Notice how these same 4 channels appear in the lower setting, and we haven't changed anything yet. And just to prove this, I'm gonna go ahead and show you what other kind of channels I'm referring to. Okay, in this side right here, it's called a patch list, and it has this listed electric piano and synth in our patch list. So as part of our patch list, we can go ahead and add in a new patch, and now we have an untitled patch, and you can name it whatever you'd like. Okay, so I'm gonna just name this one demonstration, and the easiest way to name this is to hold down the option button and press and click option click. Okay, we're gonna name this something easy. Now, like I said, this is part of a marching band show. I'm gonna show you what I do first when I start to set up for a marching band show. So when I'm getting set up, I'm gonna first create some channel strips. They're going to be for things we use throughout the show. This first channel strip is just going to be one of many, and this is an audio input for our keyboard instruments. Now, the audio input I'm just going to do specifically for a marimba, and this is going to be for one channel. Since this is through my MacBook, you're going to hear some feedback, and this feedback protection helps, but I'm also going to mute the channel. So as you can see, it's trying to fix it. I've just now muted it so it goes away. The reason why is my speaker is very close to the microphone, so we're going to get a lot of feedback if I'm using just my MacBook. Like I said, we'll talk about the output routing and input routing with your audio interface later. We're going to call this marimba and assume that I only have one microphone for my marimba. As we are going through this, this, as you can see, has an orange folder, which means it should automatically show up in my electric piano and synth file and also in my demo file. The reason why you want a concert view channel strip for some files is these are channel strips you plan on changing throughout the show, that you want to make that change happen in every single part of the show. For example, if I bring the volume down in the concert view, it says -12. That should also appear as -12 in any other view. Okay, so this is our concert view, and so we're gonna go ahead and bring that back for clarification. Now, as we get to this, we have a couple channels that aren't there. These channels are preloaded, but we're gonna pretend this is what we're using for our synth. So here's a sound. Okay, so we were using that as part of our synth in the show, and we wanted to use it later on in the show. Notice how those sounds have disappeared. We can actually do that. Now, what I want to encourage you right now to do as you're setting up is create what I call a set. And a set is like a folder just like this concert setup. I'm going to bring everything up here, and we have this folder. I'm going to hold down Option click to rename it, and I want all of you to do this. Name it Soundcheck or Alias. Okay, and what this is these are all the channels that are going to be used throughout the show, but are not going to be used in the concert view. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this, our sounds that we liked, and I'm going to bring it straight down to the alias. I dragged it over top, which means this, what we call patch view, is now going to be within the alias set. Okay, so the electric piano and synth, this might be all of the piano sound effects we have throughout the show, so we can do a sound check to make sure they're all plugged and working. You could do one specifically for the Bluetooth mics, and so every patch you add, these are going to be your what we call originals. Now the difference between an alias and a concert view is going to appear no matter what. Alias only appears if you make it. So in our demo track, this is the start of your marching band show. In fact, I'm going to rename it intro. And I'm actually going to put it in a new set that I'm going to title Movement 1, which I think most programs would call the first movement for a high school marching band, or maybe set 1, or maybe part 1. I'm going to go ahead and drag our patch into the set. Okay, those are the key terms: concert view, set view, patch view. Okay, the patch we have here has no sounds yet, and so from our alias track, I'm going to go ahead and copy the sounds we already have. I'm holding Shift to select both channels and Command C to copy. Now we're going to go to our intro patch, and I'm going to hold Command Option and press V, and this pastes them. What I want you to notice is the concert level folders are an orange folder, as you can see there. Our alias tracks have a green arrow. When you click on that, that will bring you to the original channel. What is important to recognize is the originals have a circle around it, and the non-originals do not have a circle. What stays the same in these is the EQ you add, the inputs, and the outputs for this channel strip. What does not change, and this is very important, is the dynamic changes. Let's say we bring both of these down by 3 decibels. We go to the original, the 3 decibel change was not done. However, if I turn off the EQ in the alias channel, it's also turned off in the original. So what I do to one will happen to the other. Now, why would this be helpful? So let's talk about it. An alias, each one of these channel strips creates memory on your computer. If you create an alias, it is just a copy of the original, which means you're not making an extra one. It's just a copy, saving you space on your computer. So if you're looking to save space, I recommend using a lot of alias channels. Okay, now part of this, I want to explain what I want to do here with our show. So I'm going to go ahead and do intro, and we're going to call this next section from the intro, let's say A. So we're going to rename it, Option click A, and now I have 2 computers here. The keyboard I want to use for the show, we want one to do a sound effect, okay? And so I'm sure a lot of you guys want to use sound effects as part of your show. In our situation, we want this to come through the keyboard as a key on the keyboard as they're playing through their show. So that way the player doesn't have to reach for a patch. We can insert a note into their notation that will sound as the sample we're going for. So it is not an audio. Audio would refer to microphone. Software instrument is something uploaded through the computer, not outside the computer. So the software instrument is what we're looking for, and we're going to assign it to keyboard 1. And the output you could assign once we get the audio interface plugged in. Okay, so as you can see, this is hovering only over the keyboard instrument. Now, what did I do wrong? What I did wrong is I didn't put this in my alias first, okay? So the best thing to do is take that channel, and I'm going to do Command X to cut it from this area, and I'm going to Command Paste it so it's in my alias. We can rename it Sample 1 because that's what it will be called for our show. And now I'm going to take Sample 1, Command C to copy, and we're going to put it Section A. Okay, now it's available for us. As you can see, the instrument part or the input is not turned on, so we'll get no sound. So we're going to go ahead and go to Instrument, and we're going to go to Sampler Multi-Sample. That is the most common one to use. There's also quick sampler, which is single sample. I want to show you guys the multi-sample because it's slightly more complicated and there's a lot more you can do with it. Okay, so what you have now is you have the synth settings, the mod settings, modulator settings. These are all things you can do to mess with the sound besides what you've already created for the sound. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the modulator in the mod matrix, and we're going to add in the mapping and the zone, which is the most important part for you. The zone is the selection of the audio you want to change, or what you want as part of the audio you've created. So what I've done is I've actually created a audio of what the choir is going to be doing later in our show. So I created this using Logic, and it's a version of Lights Are On. It's by Tom Rosenthal, and what we're going to do is they're going to sing Lights Are On. And since I haven't gotten from the choir yet, I made my own for the purpose of this video. Okay, to play it, I need to play the keyboard where I want it to be sounding. So right now on C3, it would produce a sound based off of the highlighted key. And as you can see right now, depending on the key I press, it changes the pitch. If this is something you wanted to do, let's say you wanted to play that same sample in 3 different keys and 3 different pitches for a chord, that'd be a really great idea. For our sakes, it's already been tuned to the pitch we want it to be, which is C. So we're going to actually drag this section, and we're going to bring it to the note we want it to be, which is only C. So now we don't hear the sound, now we do. So right now I'm holding down the key. As you can tell, it's purple. So when I let go, the sample stops. I wasn't quite done with the sample, so we're going to go ahead and make it so it is based off of one shot. As you can see here, one shot to play the sound. So if I press C, it will go through regardless of what's going on. So the reason why the zone section matters is I don't want this extra space here. I want it to stop exactly where I want it to stop. So I'm going to drag it over, and I say on weirdly right there, and I want to get rid of that. So to make the ending fade in a little bit, what you have is these on the left and right. On the bottom is your immediate stopping ending points, and the faders on the top left are sneaking in and sneaking out is the best way to put it. So if I wanted the on to fade away in the background, I can do this to make it fade away, and because you can see the sound waves have gotten smaller. So as we play it, and if I wanted to hear that note change, I can just bring it back a little bit before then. Okay, now here's one thing you guys might want to consider. So this note here, pitch, is highlighted. I'm going to unhighlight it. What's going to happen now is I now can bring the sample out a little bit farther. And the reason why I would do this is in the case the student missed the key they were supposed to play. So now the sample will not be altered by pitch. As you notice, both are playing in the same pitch, even though I press B and then I press C. This is something that can be very valuable for you if you have a player that might miss. The downside is if they play 2 keys at the same time, you're going to hear what you just heard in my recording where they play that. So consider these options for yourselves. We have a pretty solid piano player, so we do not have to worry about that, but a player we had last year, we had to worry about this, so we made sure to give more space. Okay, now this is created and it's done. As you've noticed, there's a lot of space here, but that's the key we need. So if you want to make it more blatantly obvious what's going on with the sample, you can actually go to your layout and you can select the high key that is available for your sample and the low key. So the high key for this sample, I'm going to say is C sharp. And I'm not going to be able to do that because I have to select the channel strip. Okay, let's see if it'll let me hear. High key. And let's say low key. Okay. And you can also manually adjust it. This way it looks like it doesn't want to play nice. So what I'm doing now is making it so the student, when they're performing in performance view, which I'll show you now, which is up here, they can see that the sample is right there on their keyboard. So none of this will make a sound. And because we have that set to one touch, it does not stop. If you wanted it to play through a certain amount at one point of the show and through the rest of it later, unselecting the one touch would be a good idea if you want to hold out the volume. In our case, we do not. Okay, so now here we're going to talk about how to get those sounds throughout the show. One thing you might want to consider is taking your sample and assigning it to a pitch much higher in the keyboard. The way to do that is through the sampler, not through the layout editor. If you make your layout editor this section, you'll never hear the audio from the section, okay? So make sure you do that. Now I've just selected an octave. This just selects the section you want it to be. So a few other things we can talk about with this. I want to talk about assigning what I call key switches. As you notice in the performance mode, they have the intro, and then we have our sound check or the alias channels. Notice how I'm clicking on movement 1, but movement 1 doesn't appear because that's just a set. And the alias does not appear because it's a set. So the patches within them is what you're going to see. As you can see, I'm easily moving up and down throughout, but I'm not doing anything on here, and that's because of a key switch automatically put on the computer. You can trust your student that is by the computer with their synth to use the keys. If not, you can assign a key switch for this. Now, the key switch is really easy to assign. We're going to go to the layout, which is our performance screen, the layout right there. Now, all you have to do is select somewhere on this for the layout. You could assign on your patches themselves what to call them, what to be, but the most important is to assign a part of this keyboard. Now, without a keyboard plugged in, I'm not able to do this, but I'm going to show you on the screen how it would be done. So you're going to want to select the keyboard you plan on using. As you can see, there are two we have available. If they were plugged in, they would be black. And assign it to a channel of the keyboard. Channel 1 works great. I like to do note on off. So regardless of whether or not the note is playing on or off, it will go. Okay. And then we're going to assign the pitch. In this keyboard, let's say I wanted to be C6. And then, so this is to go down. So when the player presses C6 on their keyboard, the pitch will go downwards, okay? And so if I go in here right now, back to edit, and I press C6, you see it goes down throughout the show. And that's important if you want the student to be able to do this easily without having to do it yourself. Now, let's talk about the benefits of using this for a second. If you are using Mainstage for your digital side of things for your show, let's say you want to make things digital electronic, you don't want a student standing at the mixer adjusting knobs and faders on your mixer. You can do that all on your own in the channel strips view on an iPad connected to your MacBook Pro via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. If I remember correctly, Bluetooth is an option. If you get farther away, it's not as much as an option, but a personal hotspot we found worked best for us through the show, and you guys can decide what works best for you. When the student is in performance mode, we are actually in the channel strip view, and we are adjusting these volumes frequently throughout the show, but all the student sees and worries about is pressing C to get down to the next part of the show. So we tend to name our patches the drill sets in the show, so the students know when they get to set 3 in the show, the patch will also be named set 3, or possibly the movement measure numbers depending on what the student lets us know what they need. We do collaborate with them a little bit on what they need. Okay, so now we're going to talk about making what you see in the channel strip view a little bit easier from the director standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and go to all of our channels we have so far. I talked about having a marimba here, so we're going to change the channel strip so it's really easy to adjust the marimba. As you can see, the marimba's there, and where you change all of these channels to make how you see it better is the attribute section. And if you haven't seen these sections yet and you've been wondering how to get them, I apologize. Quick explanation. Quick help is everything you hover over will try and tell you shortcuts and things you can do for it. And toggle inspectors, that's what you do to be able to change what you're doing on. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to change the image to match marimba, so we understand when we look on the iPad that we're looking at a marimba. Okay, another thing we want to do is we like to color code the rainbow with the channel strips. So channel strip 1 or output 1 would be red, and we know the input microphone for our show is going to be marimba, the high microphone marimba. So marimba 1 is going to have input 1 and it's going to be red. So we can select the color here. We can click a default color, or we can also customize it. You have the option of a wheel, the circle here, sliders, selecting colors by searching colors. So if I type red, it will pop up. Another one people like to do is the colored pencil view. And this one's really easy because you can look at what you've done to color code your system and match right away. Okay, so I can go through here and match the same output 1 and 2. We want the color to match red. Right now I'm not able to change that, but since it's an output, we could go ahead, and I like to keep it as a mixer because we know that's an output. Okay, some other things we can do here. We know this is our synth and this is a sampler, so I like to keep it there. If we wanted to be our synth keyboard, we could have the two match and make them both synths. As you go through this, you will find that the customization can really help you out a lot in terms of channel strip view. So customizing it, taking that extra time in a performance makes finding what you need to change much quicker and faster. To recap, from the channel strip point of view, these orange folders will always appear, but it'll always be on your far right. Anything that's an alias channel will be on your far left. And if you needed to make immediate changes to the alias itself, you can always click the arrow and it will show you the source from which it came from. Okay, I can't stress enough, it's really important to start your show in the alias channel at the bottom of the show, because once you know that all the sounds work, you can go to your keyboard, press C6, press C6, and it'll bring you to the start of the show. Okay, let's see, anything I can mention here. So we call these key switches throughout the show. You can assign key switches to multiple different parts of the show. There's a lot of different things you can do. That's just the most basic, easy one to do right away. Creating alias tracks is really important for saving space on your computer. And in another video, I will create one discussing inputs and outputs for your audio interface. Right now, I can't show you much considering all I have is one input of a microphone and outputs 1 and 2 of my speakers, left side and right side. Okay, we can also talk about setting up your MIDI controller so the screen matches exactly what you're looking for. What I want to right now is just open what I'm working on right now, so you can go ahead and see what the show I'm working on looks like, so you can see how this can help you a little bit more. Okay, so our concert view, no sounds are applied, but you can see our marimbas and vibraphones are going to be on throughout the entire show, and they have the color coding with the images to help us. Okay, in our alias channels, you can see we're using quite a few sound effects. The sound effects we're using have certain colors throughout the show. You can hear them because I've changed it so it works for my speakers while I'm gone, and I can change the audio interface. As you can see, the inputs, if you click on it, can be a stereo output, or it can just be a mono, which is one circle, and all it takes is clicking on it to make that change. Okay, you see we have flute solo, baritone solo, we have all these sound effects, we have all those channels, and we have field left microphones, and we still need to make a channel for field right and midfield microphones. Okay, hopefully this helps you a little bit so you can see the keyboard alignment a little bit better. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section, and I will see where I can help you out from there. Thank you so much, and have a good day.